Hi guys, what I'm going to do today is just give you the tail end of what we were talking about last lesson, and we've just done about urban hierarchy, which was about the primate cities, and now I'm going to give you this model here, which is called central place theory, and it's by a geographer called Walter Christler. Central place theory, and it's done in hexagons, so they're all equally distant, and the idea is in central place theory that all cities or cities of similar size are equally distant from each other. So that you can see these are the biggest cities and look how far away from each other they are. And the cities just outside of them are all equal distance as well. And these are the smaller settlements. We would call them either villages or hamlets. And then these outside of those are the towns on the outside. And we say this is sort of the gravity model because bigger cities have a larger gravitational pull and they have a bigger orbit. So you think about somewhere like Orlando, a lot of areas commute into it. That's the orbital pull of Orlando. We would say that's the gravity model. And so there is a distance decay with cities. The larger the city, the greater the localized interaction there is with it. So let's just take a look at 4 or 5 land use models. The first one I want us to look at here is the classic concentric zone model, which works really well in cities in flat areas like Chicago, but still has problems because Chicago isn't completely and utterly flat. And of course, one side of it has a lake. It also works well for London, if you ask me. And the subway map is formed on it, but there you go. So in the middle of the town, the middle of the city, buildings are high because land prices are high. And that's part of what's called bid rent theory. Buildings are always tall where land is high. And in the middle, we have what's called traditionally the central business district. Here you find offices, retail, courts, major metropolitan offices, museums, those sorts of things. In American cities, you might also find a stadium or something like that. In more modern American cities, in older American cities, the stadiums are always on the outskirts like they are in Europeans. But in more modern ones like Jacksonville and things like that, you're going to find them downtown. In B is called the zone of transition. And in the zone of transition, there's warehouses, some rundown areas, train depots, bus depots, storage facilities, those sorts of things. It's not a place where people tend to live. In bigger cities, it's often a place where you might find nightclubs and things like that because land prices are pretty cheap. The police and other security groups tend to brush people that they don't want in maybe that are panhandling for change or indigent, and they'll brush them away, and inadvertently they'll end up on the outskirts of that patrol area and end up in this zone B, which isn't demarcated zone B. It's just you'll know it's zone B by what's there. And then you'll go into zone C after that, and zone C has single occupancy dwellings, multiple occupancy houses, brownstones that are filtered into 4 or 5 apartments per brownstone, terraced houses, townhouses that are close together. And further out, you have your classic single occupancy dwelling with maybe a 2-car or 1-car garage, picket fence, families, grocery stores, things like that. In this one, you're still looking really sort of convenience stores, not so many elementary schools, things like that. There's still not many families living there. Cars that are there tend to be on off-street parking. And then E is your McMansion, your stockbroker belt. These are the gated communities and on the fringes of the suburbs, almost the exurbs. This is your central business district if you're using the sector model. And this is called the Homer-Hoyt model. So this that we just looked at, that is called the Burgess model, also known as the concentric zone. This is the Hoyt model, the Homer-Hoyt model. And the Homer-Hoyt model is very, very applicable to Orlando. There would be Orlando in the middle. There would be the zone of transition, which is I-4, running all the way through it with some industry and some stadiums, things like that, because the land price is cheap and undesirable. Here's the high-class residentials extending all out into Winter Park. Next to it would be areas that aspire to be like that. Right down into the downtown area, close to it, you have some fairly run-down residential areas, and also on the outside here. And this is called the sector model, and it's Homer Hoyt is probably the best example, not the best example, is the name of that model or the sector model. Here is the Ullman and Harris model, or sometimes known as the multiple sector model, multiple nuclei model. Ullman and Harris, multiple nuclei. This is very, very typical of a zone city in North America. And what you'll find here in a zone city is lots and lots of different areas doing different things. And it's a city that is planned, literally, where you have planning ordinances, like you might even see in Sim City or something like that. That's probably a game that's too old for you, where you're going to find various things in various different areas. In Latin America, this is the Latin American model. This area is typified. You've got a traditional downtown area that is colonial, that's going to have a church, a market, a central business district. And from the central business district down this spine, you're going to have a very long boulevard and a mall at the end of it. And you're going to have your nice elite residential sector along this area that's probably going to have private security guards. Near that, you will have your sort of homes of the middle classes. And on this area, on the outside, you're going to have what's called squatter settlements, which in South America, in many places are known as favelas, or particularly Brazilian-speaking South America, so Brazilian-speaking, Portuguese-speaking South America, Brazil. And the disamenity is the zone that is in sort of change and fluctuation. But this area has the squatters because they're moving in from the countryside into the city, many of them performing service sector or industrial jobs, and they're squatting on this land, which means to illegally occupy land, but it's land that nobody really cares much for, so that's why they're taking it. Okay, this is the African city, and again, the African city has the old European part, and then next to it is the new section. And then there's even the old African part. And the old African part has what is very much winding streets, a Casbah often. Okay, we've just done that. That's the black, not the same thing. Okay, I'm going to fast forward a few slides here because what I'm going to do here is today talk about a purpose that you will be on about. Oops. Oops. So this one here, the last one I'm going to leave you with is gentrification. Here's an area close to my heart. In the 1980s, this was Brixton, an area run down in the south of London and definitely in need of lots of tender loving care, prone to riots, racial tensions. It was very bad. Today, it's sort of the hip vibe place to be, as well as Hoxton and East London. Those are both places which have gentrified massively. You can think of other places, Greenwich Village in New York. You can think of over the Rhine in Cincinnati. I think even there's places in Detroit today that we would have said as gentrified. And gentrification is where an area becomes just so bad and so cheap that it becomes attractive to a certain group of people that are often well educated, just out of college, and are looking for opportunities to get larger properties with old period features in them, do them up, live there, and they change the area, and different things come in once the gentrifiers are there. And the reason why I want you to look at that is because it will be your assignment today to look at that. So hold on, let me just get rid of this. And I'll open your assignment. And it's called Bring on the Hipsters. And in Bring on the Hipsters, there's this here. And then once you've done Bring on the Hipsters, there is a quiz. Let me get you the quiz. It's in modules. I'll put it for you all in one email. Here it is. And in Bring on the Hipsters, there's the article. It's about gentrification, this time using Washington, D.C. or Portland, Oregon is another good case. And after you've read it, do the quiz. This is the quiz. Here's my problem with hipsters right there. But you will have to read it in order to understand it. Okay. All right, listen, I will see you soon and have lots of fun and take care. Bye-bye.